Hello and thank you for joining us. The bell has rung on the race to build Africa's biggest airport, and Xi Jinping's China has come out swinging, landing the first punch. Donald Trump's Washington is still in the fight, but Ethiopia is watching both, because this may be a fight where the biggest winner is the country hosting the ring. Reports suggest that Chinese state-owned construction groups have taken the early lead in the race to build Ethiopia's $12.5 billion Bishoftu International Airport. Ethiopian Airlines has shortlisted bidders for 4 major construction packages. And of 33 shortlisted positions, 15 are held by Chinese state-owned construction groups. So Beijing won the first round of the Bishoftu race. But not the whole fight. While no major independent U.S. contractor made the main construction shortlist, Washington is instead targeting the high-value layers of the project like aircraft, engines, aviation technology, and financing. Boeing and GE Aerospace have already been identified as potential beneficiaries of Ethiopia's expanding aviation business. And that is what makes Bishoftu more than an airport contract. It is a test of how Ethiopia can turn global competition into national leverage. The scale of this mega project is staggering. The airport is being built in Abusera, which is nearly 40 kilometers south of the capital Addis Ababa, designed to handle 60 million passengers annually in its first phase, and rising to 110 million at full build-out. Now, it will feature 4 runways and 3.7 million metric tons of cargo capacity, turning Bishoftu into the primary aviation hub linking Africa directly to Europe, Asia, and the Americas. But building Africa's biggest airport comes with an Africa-sized bill. Ethiopian Airlines plans to fund about 30% of the $12.5 billion cost, leaving more than $9 billion to be raised from international financiers.
The first chapter of the construction requires a massive investment of $12.5 billion. From this, the Ethiopian Airlines Group will contribute 30% of the fund. The remaining 70% will be funded by international financiers.
Who builds the airport is only half the story. Who finances it may determine who stays inside Ethiopia's economy for the next 30 years. And this is where Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government holds maximum leverage. Ethiopian Airlines says lenders have expressed interest of about $8.5 billion, but no full financing agreement has yet been signed. And that is where the competition gets even more interesting. Now, the African Development Bank has indicated it could provide $500 million, while U.S. institutions, including the Development Finance Corporation and Exim Bank, alongside J.P. Morgan Chase, have also shown interest. Chinese financial institutions are in the picture too, including the Bank of China, the ICBC, and China Development Bank. And the bell has not rung on the final contracts yet. Ethiopian Airlines has reportedly pushed contractor selection from August 2026 to early January of 2027. Bidders reportedly asked for more time to prepare technical proposals and to arrange financing. The airline says the delay will not affect the overall project schedule, but it does give every contender more time to fight for a piece of Ethiopia's biggest infrastructure bet. China's early lead has also a long history behind it. Between 2000 and 2023, Ethiopia reportedly borrowed roughly $13.7 billion from Chinese entities. Chinese firms have built major rail, industrial, and telecom projects across the country. And that existing footprint gives Chinese contractors an advantage that they do not have to build from scratch. But Washington still has a way into Bishoftu. Earlier this year, in April, Ethiopia Airlines agreed to buy 6 additional Boeing aircraft, taking its total order book to 26 aircraft. That opens the door for American companies across aircraft, engines, and aviation technology. And this is happening as Addis Ababa and Washington try to reset their broader relationship. On the 15th of August, Ethiopia's ambassador in Washington met with U.S. Assistant Secretary of State. The two sides discussed strategic and economic cooperation and regional stability. After years of political friction, particularly over Nile Basin negotiations and the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, Bishoftu now gives Washington something concrete to compete for: commercial access. And this is where Ethiopia's position becomes clear. It does not need to give the entire project to one power. China brings massive construction capacity. The United States brings aviation technology and commercial finance. The African Development Bank brings regional financial weight. For Ethiopia, the goal is not simply to build an airport. Ethiopia may be landlocked, but it refuses to let its economy be landlocked. It is building a global gateway in the air at a scale that few African countries have attempted.
The airline is called the Pride of Ethiopia, not out of nothing, but by coming through natural and man-made challenges. It is also the pride of Africa. It is also our demonstration of the prosperity we are striving for.
And that is the biggest story of Bishoftu. China may have landed the first punch, but the fight is far from over. America wants the aviation business, global capital wants a stake, and Abiy Ahmed's government is demonstrating a masterclass in modern geoeconomics. It is the one making everyone compete. Ethiopia may be landlocked, but with Bishoftu, it is building a gateway the world will have to come through. Now, to understand how Ethiopia is navigating this high-stakes competition between global powers, we are being joined live by David Shin, former U.S. ambassador to Ethiopia and China-Africa specialist, who is joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
China holds 15 of the 33 construction shortlist positions, while the U.S. targets aviation, technology, and financing. Is Ethiopia deliberately dividing the project between Washington and Beijing to maximize its leverage?
I think that the Ethiopian government will make every effort to divide up the contract to some extent, but it's important to keep in mind that China has an enormous advantage when it comes to construction companies. They're on the ground in Africa, in Ethiopia. They're well established there. They provide infrastructure work all over the continent. And the U.S. has not really done that in recent years. So their construction companies are at a tremendous disadvantage, and they also tend to be fairly expensive. The advantage the U.S. has is in providing aircraft for the Ethiopian Airlines fleet. It's the largest airlines in all of Africa. It's expanding rapidly, and it is based predominantly upon Boeing aircraft. So I think the U.S. will do very well in terms of fleet expansion. They will probably get involved in some of the financing, but they will be less likely to win construction contracts.
Right, and after years of tensions over the good and regional security, does Bishoftu mark a shift toward U.S. commercial diplomacy in Ethiopia? And can Washington realistically counter China's, albeit infrastructure, head start?
Well, Bishoftu is located about 50 kilometers outside of Addis Ababa, and the idea, as I understand it, is to serve as a regional hub for all of the Ethiopian Airlines flights that go on to other destinations. It's probably not designed so much for supporting internal traffic into Ethiopia, and particularly the capital of Addis Ababa. They still have an airport at Bole in Addis Ababa to do that. But clearly, Ethiopian Airlines is expanding enormously, and there's plenty of room for both the US and China to get engaged in this expansion. There are no Chinese aircraft in the Ethiopian fleet. It's either Airbus or Bombardier or Boeing, primarily Boeing. And that's where the US is going to play a huge role. Perhaps they will win a few of the smaller construction contracts, but I don't expect that it will be very major.
Right, and with 110 million passengers and 3.73 million metric tons of cargo planned, could Bishoftu give a landlocked Ethiopia new regional power as a gateway for African trade and logistics?
Well, clearly, Bishoftu is designed to increase significantly the freighter traffic all across Africa. And again, the entire Ethiopian Airlines fleet of freighters is Boeing aircraft. There are many freighters on order from Boeing. I believe the number is 40 or more in the coming years. So that is going to help Ethiopia become more expansive as a country, but it's not going to have any impact upon their landlocked status. That continues to be a serious problem, and Ethiopia is doing everything it can to try to obtain access to the Red Sea, so far without any success.
Right. Ambassador, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Patria o muerte. Venceremos.
How do you measure a revolution? By the governments it topples? By the lives it changes? Or by the ghosts it leaves behind? History has no shortage of revolutionaries. Most are remembered in history books. Some are remembered in monuments and statues. But there are only a few whose face, or the silhouette of it, becomes more famous than their name.